When material comes into play, do you think it also plays important role in visual outcomes for the patient?
If you have a clear material, optically clear material, it doesn't matter whether it is hydrophilic or hydrophobic. So it is the transmission of light which is important.
In a brief, ki how polymerization works?
And polymerization, in fact, was discovered by a German, Hermann Staudinger. A molecule gets attached to another molecule of a similar kind, and you get a chain-like structure. Single molecule is a monomer. When you get addition of many, it becomes a polymer.
Sir, what are the lenses?
So initial lenses were all monofocal, which means that they were working at one fixed focal length. The multifocal lenses, they create three distinct focal points. EDOF lenses, extended depth of focus, they just create a single focus for distance and intermediate.
EDOF lenses are based on a refractive principle or diffractive principle?
They can be on both.
Okay.
But refractive is now more.
Welcome to DocPod. Here we will have discussions on research and latest advancement in medicine and science. Today's episode, our guest is Dr. Manoj Rai Mehta. He has done his MBBS and MD from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and he has researched on biocompatibility of IOL materials in collaboration with Center for Material Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology with IIT Delhi. So, in today's episode, we are going to have a conversation regarding tiny marvels which have revolutionized the cataract surgery. So, our today's episode will be divided into three sections. The first section is IOL in advancements and its designs. The second section will be IOL materials, and the third section will be related to the research. Welcome, Dr. Mehta. Thank you for coming on the show. I know this is going to be a very good discussion on the ophthalmic topic. And sir, मेरे को ना sir पहली बात तो आपकी tie, it is looking like eyes. Is that?
Yeah, you are very right. Satyam, first of all, thank you very much for having me over. I think today we are going to have an exciting journey together. And we are going to move from the topic of how the human crystalline lens, which gets cataractus, is operated upon, and how an artificial lens is put inside the eye. This entire journey is going to be very exciting, and I think a lot of eyeballs are going to pop out after that.
Yes, of course, sir. So let's start with the topic. Like our first topic is about intraocular lenses. So there are different kind of lenses in the market. So sir, what are different types of lenses, intraocular lenses, which are there?
Satyam, I think there has been an evolution as far as the intraocular implants and cataract surgery is concerned. It will be very imperative, I think interesting for us to go back to the history of the IOL itself. So I think the first question you should have asked me was how the IOL came into existence, how this concept came into existence, which itself has got a very interesting
So sir,
history.
let's start with this only, like how intraocular lens came in the market.
I'm glad you have asked me this question now. So I was just looking at tracing some literature, and I found that the first intraocular implant, in fact, was tried by Casamata.
Okay.
And he was an oculist in the court of Dresden. And he made the first effort to put an implant in the eye, which was an eye intraocular implant, which was made out of glass. But because it was heavy, it just sunk.
Okay.
So that was a little setback. And if you want me, I can give you the date also. It was in 1795, actually, that this happened.
Okay.
So after that, there was nobody tried anything. And then the scene changed during Second World War. There was a young doctor, Harold Ridley, who was posted in an emergency department of a hospital where he was supposed to take care of the ophthalmic problems arising out of the war. And he made an observation that people who were coming to him after a crash of an aircraft, where the cupola of the aircraft, or now we know as the canopy, when it burst, there were plastic pieces which used to enter the eye and not incite any reaction. So he looked at it and he realized that polymethyl methacrylate, which was known as Perspex at that time, which is a trade name actually, it wasn't causing any reaction in the eye. So he kept on observing, and then one fine day, somebody incited him that Dr. Ridley, you've taken out the cataract. Why don't you put another lens inside? And that's what stuck with him. That why not? And in fact, he carried out his first implant in the year
1949?
1949. Yes, it
Yes,
was in the.
49.
I can tell you check the date. It was November 29,
Okay.
1940 that he carried out. And then subsequently, he kept on doing more surgeries like that, and he implanted more than 700 people with this. So this was the beginning of the intraocular implant and beginning of a cataract surgery revolution, I would say.
Okay.
Because that was the biggest paradigm shift that the surgery saw. And acrylic came to be the material which was getting popular and which was being used for improving the lens design, improving the optics, and that is how the journey of improvement of intraocular implants started.
Okay. So, sir, from early innovations to the latest advancements, what do you see where intraocular lenses have come? What are different type of intraocular lenses which are coming in the market?
So you have raised a very interesting question, and answer again lies in the evolutionary pattern. You see, PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate, was a material which was inert, which was not causing any reaction. It was biocompatible to that extent. Very easy to lathe, very easy to give shape, but was rigid. So one had to implant it through a large incision.
Okay.
And then people started thinking how to make the lens smaller in size, how to make it a little flexible so that it can go through a smaller tunnel, how to change the material so that it can slide into the eye easily through a tubing. And that's how the research went on. And from PMMA, the carbon metal, the atom was replaced by silicon. And the first major breakthrough in material, it came in, let me check, give you the precise date, that from 1940s to 50s, it was PMMA primarily. And then it was in 1970s that silicon was introduced in replacing carbon atom.
Okay.
And silicones came into existence. Okay. So organoketone derivatives of silicon were used to polymerize and create siloxanes, which were used to craft the lenses. So these lenses, they were flexible, they could be folded, and they could be pushed through a small tunnel into the eye, and they could be pushed through tubing without getting scratched, without getting more scratch marks on them. So that's what happened. And then silicon, we had a second, I would say, change where the hybrid materials came. That if PMMA is so good, how do we make PMMA more flexible? And there are two techniques which came into existence, which are still working. One is that you create a polymer which has got monomer elements in them which make the chains more flexible. That you have a long chain of a polymer, and then you introduce a monomer which is different from the monomer with which that polymer is made, so that it makes it flexible. So these side chains were created using different molecules. So PMMA became more flexible. The other technique which was used was that to use a hybrid material, to add material which loves water, to add hydrophilic material. Now this kind of so there are two ways it is done. So now more and more hybrid materials are coming in. Okay. This is where I would say the material technology stands today.
And sir, what about that hydrophilic, hydrophobics? Are those a part of a hybrid material or these are different?
See, that's a very interesting discussion in itself. In material technology. We'll finish with material technology first and then come to the designs later. See, HEMA, which is hydroxyethyl methacrylate. Polyhema is a soft material which is created, which is pliable, which can be used for making flexible lenses. But it has got a hydration of about 38%. So if you mix and match these polymers, you can devise, I would say, customized polymers which would have different qualities. Which will have different. So you can have a polymer which may have hydration of 8%, 10%. So you can actually control the hydration in this way.
Okay.
And this is the time when you also add substances which are, let's say, you want ultraviolet light absorption, you can have it. You can put a tinge of a yellow dye to absorb the blue light. So all these things, they happen during the process of creating material for the intraocular implants.
Okay. So, sir, when material comes into play, do you think it also plays important role in visual outcomes for the patient?
See, I would respond to this question in a different way. If you have a clear material, optically clear material, it doesn't matter whether it is hydrophilic or hydrophobic.
Okay.
So it is the transmission of light which is important. But at the same time, you want to have a material which does not disperse the light much.
Okay.
Okay. So as far as the optical qualities are concerned, when the process of polymerization goes on, when you make either tubes or you make buttons in capsules, so there is a very high rate of rejection because polymerization is not a totally predictable and a controlled process. You can control the conditions in which polymerization takes place.
Okay.
Like you can maintain the temperature, you can maintain the humidity in the environment. Okay. So that is the only thing you have a control. So the exact polymer which is created, you cannot predict.
Okay.
Okay. So there is a variation from lot to lot, which is not significant because you are producing those polymers in controlled conditions. Okay. The only thing is that once your final product is there, how do the final product work inside the eyes? So the only thing right now which we can say for sure is that the posterior capsular opacification is less in the lenses which are made out of PMMA, which is hydrophobic material, and it is a little higher in the lenses which are hydrophilic, which have got more HEMA in them.
Okay.
But how significant is that? There's a debate.
Okay.
The other side of the story is that the glistening particles are more in PMMA lenses, acrylic-based lenses, and less in the hydrophilic lenses.
Okay.
The ease of implantation is much more in hydrophilic lenses.
Okay.
They slide easily. They don't scratch easily.
Okay.
They also produce a little less inflammation. So let's say there are eyes which have got which are post-iridocyclitis, post-uveitis, post-inflammatory conditions. Hydrophilic lenses may coincide a little less inflammation in them and may be safer to use.
Okay.
So this is where the material today stands.
Okay. So, sir, as you have told that ki in hydrophilic, there is a less chance of glistening and all. So, in hydrophobics, it means ki there is a more chance of glistening.
See, again, what I'm saying is that the incidence is not that high.
Okay.
But only thing is that it is reported. So this is what I'm saying is that what is accepted today is only this much. That's the summary. We can have discussions on this endlessly. We can have, that such and such company has less, such and such company has more, but that will not lead us nowhere.
Nowhere, yes.
So what I'll say that as of today's knowledge, as far as material of a lens is concerned, we are not talking of design yet.
Yes, yes.
So the glistening particles are more in hydrophobic PMMA lenses and less in hydrophilic.
Okay. Sir, as we were talking about the material part, and you have said the word polymerization. So, can you describe me in a brief ki how polymerization works?
I'm glad you asked this question to me because I think every doctor must know a little bit about polymerization, and we have all actually read about it during our schooling itself when we were doing chemistry lessons. And polymerization, in fact, was discovered by a German, Hermann Staudinger. He found that if a molecule gets attached to another molecule of a similar kind and you get a chain-like structure, so that single molecule is a monomer. When you get addition of many, it becomes a polymer. So it changes. This is a chemical reaction. You can ask me if you're putting let's say methyl methacrylate in a box, will it cause polymerize? No, it won't.
Okay.
So polymerization is necessarily a chemical reaction, a change in the bonding, which creates chain-like structure and a lattice-like structure. So it can be by adding more molecules. It can be a condensation of the molecules, or it can be if you have a benzene-like ring, if you have got a hexagonal ring, you open one bond, you open the ring and you attach another ring. So these are the ways in which polymerization takes place.
Okay.
And polymers, in fact, necessarily, it is it's a wonderful thing that the carbon atom has got this wonderful property of making these chain-like structures. And another molecule which comes close to it, another element which comes close to carbon is silicon.
Okay.
So that is why carbon and silicon share many properties, and that's why in polymerization, these two molecules, these two elements and the molecules, they play an integral part.
Okay. So, sir, let's talk about little bit about design of the lenses. So, sir, like from early innovations to this like latest advancements, what do you think? What are the different type of lenses?
Say human beings are never satisfied, they
Yes.
want to improve. And as we say, there is a circle of quality circles we have. So we're not satisfied with what we achieve. So when PMMA lenses came, people started feeling there's a glare, there's a dispersion of light. People started complaining of glares, halos, sometimes colored lights that they see. So some of it was in the material. The answer lay in material, to modify those materials. And some of it was in the design of the intraocular implant itself.
Okay.
So when you have got a capsular bag, which is from which all the crystalline lens material has been taken off, that empty bag, how to fill it with a lens that will be stable, that will cause least aberration, and that will give you a vision which is both for far and near. So if you talk of an ideal lens would be the ideal intraocular implant, artificial implant. That will be the one which will do all the functions which are being done by the natural lens and a little more.
Okay.
So as the understanding of, I will start with simply one process, which is design in terms of spherical aberration and chromatic aberration. So initially the lenses were bispheric.
Okay.
They were spherical on both sides, then planospheric, and then it moved on to aspheric lenses.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one way of handling the thing.
Okay.
The second was that there is chromatic aberration also which comes. So chromatic aberration was, why does it happen? Some dispersion of light is natural. It will happen. You cannot make the dispersion of light zero.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. When a light passes through the prism, that's how Newton also discovered that it's dispersed and you get a spectrum. Okay. Now you want that dispersion should be minimal, because otherwise people will start seeing colored halos, they will see colored things. Chromatic aberration is going to disturb them. Sometimes different kind of lights will be seen. So there is something called Abbe number.
Okay.
Okay. So higher the number, lower is the dispersion of light. So that is the take-home message.
Okay. So, sir, this is the significance of the Abbe number
Is the material.
Okay.
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 So higher the Abbe number, less is the dispersion, and better is the performance of the peripheral part of the lens.
Okay. So this is the significance of
yes. So if I have to make a very safe statement, I will say, if you have two lenses of the same physical characters, the one which is made of a material which has got high Abbe number, the photopic performance of that lens will be better than the one which has got a lower Abbe number. So this is the conclusion.
Okay.
People also come and ask me, oh, yeah, V number bhi hota hai kuch. Ye kya hai? So Abbe number is determined for the visual spectrum, because that affects the human beings. And V is for the other parts of the spectrum, which is not visualized by the human eye. Human eye. So V and Abbe number are interchangeable as far as the visual spectrum is concerned. But V number is used for non-visible spectrum of light.
Okay.
So I think that's the controversy about Abbe number, which I think is finally buried now. That the chromatic aberration will be less and the performance of the lens, the peripheral portion of the lens will be better.
Yeah, the better the Abbe number, the less will be the dispersion, and the more lens will perform in photopic conditions.
Photopic conditions, yeah.
Okay. And what about that mesotopic?
Mesopic and see, the thing is that once the pupil dilates, Then you have light coming from the other parts of lens which may not be focusing that well. So that becomes a separate issue, and that again is a design issue. It is answered in
Okay.
the design.
Okay.
So you have incited me in telling you that dispersion is of three kinds.
Okay.
One is chromatic because it will happen. The second is modal, the how that light travels in the medium. And the modal dispersion actually is captured by the wavefront analysis.
Okay.
And then it can be because of the material itself. Because when you make a material, polymer is there, it may not have a uniform consistency. So there may be areas where the lighting is getting a little dispersed. So all these three kinds of dispersions, they have to be handled by having a good material, having good Abbe number, and having as much clarity as possible.
As possible.
And the wavefront analysis, that will the compensation for the wavefront anomalies, that can happen in the lens design.
Okay. Let's, sir, continue more on the designs. Sir, what are the lenses?
Again, you have see, this is a huge topic, and I think we'll stick to whatever is in the, I would say, public domain or easily understanding.
Okay.
So initial lenses were all monofocal, which means that they were working at one fixed focal length.
Okay.
Then came the multifocal lenses. They create three distinct focal points.
Okay.
So you should understand that. One for distance, one for intermediate, and one for near.
Okay.
And then came EDOF lenses, extended depth of focus. Easy to understand is that they do not create separate foci.
Okay.
They just create a single focus for distance and intermediate.
Okay. So it is a kind of a continuous range of
Yes,
focus.
yes, of course. I can give you a very small example that when you are looking through a pinhole, when there's a pinhole camera, it focuses at all distances. So we are mimicking the same in this EDOF lenses.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is that they give you a very clear vision for intermediate and for distance, and for near you may use a small correction. The multifocal lenses, because they create three different foci, now that can result in halos and glares, and
Okay.
it may require a lot of neuro-optical adaptation for a patient to get used to them.
Okay. So, sir, like these lenses, EDOF lenses are based on a refractive principle or diffractive principle?
They can be on both.
Okay.
But refractive is now more. And you say you can have combinations. This is what I'm saying. Refractive component is always there. Refractive and diffractive, there's a combination. It is never that it is purely diffractive lens, purely refractive lens. You can say that both the principles are used for creating this kind. And refractive lenses are getting more popular. The refractive technology is considered more natural because that's how the lens works. It refracts. It does not diffract the light.
Okay.
Diffraction comes from pupillary margins in very small pupils.
Okay.
So that's more physiological.
Okay. So, sir, when choosing the patient for the surgery, how you choose best possible intraocular lens for the patients for the suitable surgery?
Before I answer this, I would also like to tell you that toric lenses also came into existence during this development. So toric monofocal and toric multifocals are also available. So whatever is the cylindrical component of the power, that can be compensated. Whatever is the toricity of the coil, it can be compensated by these lenses.
Okay.
So that's another interesting thing. And this is coming in process technology. I'll talk about it a little later. Now, coming to how to select a lens for IOL for a patient, I think it is a mutual agreement which the patient and the doctors have to come to. Age of the patient, status of the retina, what kind of job a patient is doing, what kind of lifestyle the patient is maintaining, whether it's a software professional or whether it's a professional driver. You have to ask all these questions.
Okay.
I think it will be... whatever I'm saying is there's no rigid yes, no, or right kind of a lens. You have to weigh everything. And then you have to discuss with the patient and come to an agreement. Okay, we agree that we'll put this kind of lens.
Okay.
For example, if a truck driver comes, I will encourage him to go for an EDOF lens. Because he's driving all the time and he just has to look at his speedometer and other things. He may not be very comfortable with multifocal lenses. That's a very, I would say, pertinent example.
So, sir, this is the advice you would give to your fellow ophthalmologists that like if a person who is working outside more, you should not implant that multifocal lenses in that person?
First of all, one cannot be very dogmatic. If a
Okay.
patient comes and says, I want multifocal, how will you dissuade him? He said, no, no, I have made up my mind. So these are just recommendatories.
Okay.
So to my fellow colleagues also, they cannot be a dictum. They cannot be dictated that, okay, if a person who's working outside put ED off. It is a preferred lens in my
Okay.
practice, and I think it makes more sense technically.
Okay.
Okay. A person who is to do a lot of near work, multifocal lenses work well in them. There's a little compromise on this thing. But if a person is a professional who's an IT professional, he may not feel very comfortable with that. So you have to tell him about these scenarios. You have to also tell that person that, okay, the neuro-optical adaptation may take time, sometimes 6 months. Till 1 year, I have seen that people keep on improving their vision. And when I say vision, I say visual performance of the lens keeps on improving. The patient's acceptance also keeps on improving, and they complain less and less of glares and other things. So for a multifocal lens, people always say the ladies who go to the club in the evening and enjoy life and don't drive much, they have chauffeurs to drive them around, they are the best candidates. But I think, again, you have to talk to them and not stereotype that this kind of person is best suited for this.
Okay. So like there is a different person for different
Absolutely.
type of lens. Okay.
And in fact, you see, as the technology is improving, as we are understanding wavefront and analysis, as we are in a different type of aberrations, you see, we will be going in for customized lenses, in fact.
Sir, as we were talking about torics, do you feel ki like is there any complications using toric lenses during cataract surgery?
सत्यम, अगेन मैं इसका जवाब जो ना दो अलग स्टाइल में देना चाहता हूँ.
Okay.
Number one, there is an attempt on part of many ophthalmologists कि हम तो जी बिना अच्छे इक्विपमेंट के, बिना ऑप्टिकल बायोमीटर के, बिना किसी प्रॉब्लम के लेंस फिट कर सकते हैं. आप कर सकते हैं, नो डाउट अबाउट इट. ओके, यू कैन डू मार्किंग, एवरीबडी डज मार्किंग, आप उसको मार्किंग कर सकते हो. आप कहते हो जो हम इमर्शन कर सकते हैं आप. बट माई आइडिया इज दैट यू कैन नॉट स्टॉप प्रोग्रेस ऑफ इनोवेशन, द मार्च ऑफ इनोवेशन. इनोवेशंस होती रहेंगी, वो आएंगी, इनिशियली एक्सपेंसिव होंगी, बाद में सबको लिए सस्ती हो जाएंगी. सो एज फार एज टॉरिक लेंसेज आर कंसर्न्ड, पेशेंट सिलेक्शन, आप कैसा पेशेंट है, आपका कितनी उसकी टॉरिसिटी है कॉर्निया की, वो आपने देखना है. दूसरा आपने देखना है उसका, यू शुड हैव कंप्लीट इन्फॉर्मेशन ऑफ टोपोग्राफी ऑफ द कॉर्निया. क्योंकि कॉर्निया कई बार इतना इरेगुलर होता है कि उसको एक एक्सिस में अगर है तो दूसरे एक्सिस जो होते हैं उसमें अलग अलग तरह की, let's say it is not uniform, the radius of curvature, so you may not get very good results even after putting a toric lens. वो आपको करना है. तीसरा, ऑप्टिकल बायोमेट्री आपने करनी है, उसमें अच्छा आपको आता है. इमर्शन के साथ मैं कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं करना चाहूँगा, बट एज आई से, मार्च ऑफ प्रोग्रेस विल नॉट स्टॉप, मार्च ऑफ इनोवेशन विल नॉट स्टॉप. ड्यूरिंग सर्जरी ऑल्सो, इंट्राऑपरेटिव एबरोमीटर्स, वाई नॉट, यस, स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट होना चाहिए. उसके लिए ऑप्टिकल डिवाइस होनी चाहिए सेंटरिंग के लिए, उसको मार्क करने के लिए. और ये तो इंस्ट्रूमेंट की बात हो गई. तो मेरा आपसे बस यही रिक्वेस्ट है अपने फेलो ऑफ्थल्मोलॉजिस्ट से कि अगर किसी के पास एबरोमीटर, व्हाई डोंट वी शेयर इक्विपमेंट? Why is it that you have to say that immersion is equivalent and all? Maybe it is equivalent in your hands, but not in everybody's hand. So मैं इंडिविजुअल डॉक्टर्स को नहीं टारगेट कर रहा, मैं इसमें द मार्च ऑफ प्रोग्रेस, यू कैनॉट स्टॉप इट. इनोवेशंस विल कीप ऑन हैपनिंग. टेक्नोलॉजी आपको आज नहीं तो कल एक्सेप्ट करनी है. टेक्नोलॉजी जो है इज अ ग्रेट इक्वलाइजर. आप कहते हो कि जी मेरा जो स्किल है ना, जो मैं फिट कर सकता हूँ और कोई नहीं फिट कर सकता, बट व्हेन यू हैव टेक्नोलॉजी, इट इक्वलाइजेज. उस टेक्नोलॉजी से कोई भी आदमी जो है वो फिट कर सकता है, उसकी अलाइनमेंट कर सकता है. और इसमें भी जो है इंट्राऑक्यूलर इम्प्लांट जो डिज़ाइन में, उसमें दो चीज़ें मैं तुम्हें इसमें ऐड करना चाहता हूँ जो मुझे अभी स्ट्राइक किया. दैट पीपल विद हाई मायोपिया, उनके अंदर आई थिंक वन शुड कंसिडर पुटिंग अ कैप्सुलर टेंशन रिंग टू स्टेबलाइज. क्योंकि उसमें कई बार क्या होता है, आँख जो होती है उसकी जो शेप होती है वो काफ़ी डिफरेंट होती है. तो CTR, और व्हेन यू पुट अ लेंस, इट गेट सपोर्ट फ्रॉम द CTR इटसेल्फ ऑल्सो. CTR के साथ टच में रहता है. ठीक है. दूसरा जो लेंस डिज़ाइन में है, विच इज़ कमिंग इन टोरिक एज वेल इन सच लेंसेज, इन अदर लेंसेज, दैट जो हैप्टिक्स हैं उनको जो है थोड़ा सैंड ब्लास्टिंग में थोड़ा रफ करते हैं, ताकि वो जो है उसमें जो है उनके रोटेशन जो है थोड़ा उसको easy ना हो,
rotation ना हो.
rotation ना हो, या I say rotation may happen, but it may not happen that easily as in an absolutely smooth lens
If you
with
put
smooth
that
haptics.
serrations among the
हाँ,
haptics,
serrations होती हैं, या sand blasting का रफ नहीं कर दो, कुछ भी कर दो,
कुछ भी कर दो.
तो ये चीज़ जो है बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट होती है.
Okay. सर ऐसे advancements के साथ there are new lenses which are coming out, which are accommodating lenses. Can you like brief us about कि what are accommodating lenses?
See, Satyam, I feel that first of all you have to understand what accommodation actually is in a natural lens. जो accommodative process होता है उसमें क्या है कि जब आप नज़दीक देखते हो, eyes converge also, eyes जो है अंदर की तरफ आती हैं दोनों, and then there is a change in the power of the lens. Power of the lens becomes more spherical. The ciliary muscles they contract, and the lens becomes a little more spherical. This is a process of accommodation.
Okay.
Now, for this accommodative process to actually carry out in with an artificial lens, either you lease a lens which has got the same properties which the human crystalline lens has, or you create a pseudo accommodation where some kind of movement of the lens takes place. It moves a little forward and a little more backward. A very small movement, which can be only of the optic. The haptic can be of that kind that they just push the optic a little forward or a little backward. Or there is a movement. You cannot have the entire lens moving. That will make it very unstable. So these kind of lenses are available. They were popular for some time, and some of the models were there. But this got inspired by fish. Fish don't have fishes actually. They don't have accommodative mechanism or the kind of mechanism we have in human beings.
Okay.
There is actually a ligament which pulls the lens forward and backward. So that is how this inspiration came from fish actually.
Okay.
That you could have a pseudo accommodation by just movement of the optic forward and backward.
Okay.
But I think I will not say they received a setback, but because of the problem with the material, these lenses were not very popular. And the other design, the trifocals which came, the multifocals which came, they provided better vision and better control.
Okay. So, sir, as this global trends are going on, there are Indian manufacturers, there are global manufacturers. So, what do you think our Indian manufacturers are keeping the pace with the innovation with the global manufacturers or not?
Satyam, I think I would like to answer this question again in two parts. The first part is material technology. See, I would feel that there is no need to reinvent the wheel. There are companies who have developed their molecules, who have developed their polymers. They are time tested, they are inert. So don't look for new polymers. Look for ways of improving them. That is also, there are big research labs, which are, people are sitting there, changing the molecules, putting a phosphate here, taking a phenyl out, and to modify the basic structure of the polymer to make it more, let's say, pliable, to make it more foldable, to make it more to implant with ease. So that kind of research, they've got big labs which are going on. I think to copy that all over again may not be a very good exercise. And in fact, my personal experience is that I collaborated with IIT Delhi with their two departments, Center for Material Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology, where we actually created 3 polymers.
Okay.
And 3 polymers, and we analyzed them. We took out the monomers from that and said whether it could reach the clinical quality or not. But since it was a part of a PhD thesis, after getting those polymers, after getting patented, nothing went forward because we do not have industry which will put in money into manufacturing. See, synthesizing a polymer I would say, was not the most difficult job. Synthesizing it was not difficult. We had PMMA, we had HEMA, we had a small quantity of polyethylene in it, and we actually initiated the polymerization through a plasticizer and exposure to ultraviolet light. But the polymer which was created, we had to analyze it. What are its qualities? We could do that. We took out all the monomer. We made it safe. But to mass produce that polymer was the next challenge which nobody took.
Okay.
So my suggestion is that if we are getting the material from the time-tested labs. All we have to do is get those tubes of polymers, salami slice them, or get button in the bags. So it's a very interesting thing. From a simple button-like plastic structure, you make a site-saving intraocular implant. And that is very much possible in India also. Maybe it'll be cheaper here because if you talk about lathe cutting, it may take about 10 minutes on a lens. And the CNC machines which are available, they are available in India. Diamond cutting tools are available. We have cryo labs which can do all the possible processing. So what I feel is that the manufacturing cost probably would be less in India, and innovation is very much possible. You see, I just came to a very interesting thing, that how many things can be done to a button to make it an excellent lens. You see, a doctor, you simply say that you want it. I was thinking, looking at the characters, you say you want a square edge at the back of the optics to prevent capsular opacification. You want aberrometric compensation. You want toricity answered. You want angulation to a particular extent. You want refractive zones to be designed in this way. You want diffractive zones to be deciding. You have to lathe all these things on one side and the other side. And you also have to mill the haptics out of it. So there are a whole lot of activities which are going on during the manufacturing process, which the doctors probably do not realize. And it is the wonderful technicians who are doing this job. And in India, you can get your customized lenses made in no time, I suppose. I think once the wavefront analysis, the aberrometers, they become, I would say, more accessible to the doctors, they will give a concise data to the manufacturers, and you will have customized lens coming out for each patient.
Okay. So it is ki like we Indians are keeping up with the innovations with the
Absolutely,
multinationals.
absolutely. There's no doubt. And you see, I'll give you a very small example that, again, of interdisciplinary research. MRI was in its nascent stage. People were working on it. And there's a record company called EMI, which used profits of sales of one record. Their entire profit was plowed into research into MRI.
Okay.
And because the company was interested in doing functional MRIs, how different sounds would affect different areas of the brain. So, and what a wonderful thing came out for the human beings, that
Yeah.
MRI is now being used for in neurosurgery and neurology I say it is a backbone of neurosurgery and neurology today. So the
Started
technology,
from the music record label
yes,
and went to the
to the humanity, I think.
to humanity.
So similarly, you never know what kind of research has got applications, and that is why I think interdisciplinary research needs to be sort of promoted in India.
Okay.
And the companies, they can collaborate with doctors in terms of improvement in lens design, in terms of clinical outcomes, because they can have clinical trials. And I think, in fact, what I feel is that maybe in India, not enough money is being put into the basic research. The more money goes into clinical trials and sponsoring the conferences and the other, which is also important. But I
investing
say
money
that,
in clinical research also.
yeah, in clinical research also. But what I'm saying is that the research into material, research into the basic designs, how to change, I think in the next few decades, we will see a paradigm shift in India also, as we move towards more and more customization of intraocular implants.
Okay. So, sir, let's conclude this podcast. I'll keep it up on you. Like, how would you like to conclude this?
See, my conclusion would be like this thing, like the miracle of a lens which is in your hand starts many steps backwards. And who are the people who are contributing to this miracle? There are material scientists. There are people who are designing lenses. There are people who are actually creating machines which do cutting, machining, milling. You have got micro lathes, which are CNC, like CNC computer controlled. You have machines which are, creating oscillations to cut out, to make toric lenses. You have got air spindles, which are working in these machines. After all this, you got people who are doing quality checks. You won't believe that a very large number of lenses are thrown away during the process at each level of the process which I am recounting. If the material is not good, thrown away. If there is something wrong in milling the haptics, thrown away. So the rejection rate is very high in these things. And after all this you have done, there is a team which checks quality. It checks its refractive index. There are so many parameters, in fact, on which these are checked. And that is how you get CE certification. That is how you get different types of certification. And after all this has been done, it is packed, it is sealed, it is sterilized, and it is packed again in beautiful boxes with all the details of power and stuff. And then it is transported, it gets into your hands. So I personally feel I have an army of technocrats, scientists, technicians, and supply chain management people who are helping me achieve my clinical goal of giving a patient good outcomes after surgery. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a nice talk, sir. It was a really nice talk.
My pleasure.